I found out my son got married when a wedding invitation showed up in my mailbox addressed to current resident. I'd paid $47,000 for that wedding. I wasn't invited. Hello, everyone. Tonight we're sitting in a kitchen that smells like burned coffee and silence. The kind of silence that comes after you've screamed into a pillow until your throat is raw, and even the walls seem embarrassed for you. There's a piece of cardstock sitting on my kitchen table. Cream-colored, elegant, expensive. The kind of paper that costs $3 a sheet because it has to be perfect for the perfect day. It's a wedding invitation. My son's wedding invitation. The wedding I paid $40,000 for. The wedding I'm not invited to. Before you settle in, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you're ready to hear about the kind of betrayal that comes wrapped in lace and delivered with a smile. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from and whether you still believe that love is supposed to be unconditional, because I used to believe that too. Now turn off the lights, maybe put on some soft music, and let me tell you about the day I realized I'd been paying for my own execution. The invitation came on a Tuesday, mixed in with the electric bill and a coupon for oil changes, like it was nothing, like it was meant for anyone. The address label read, "Current resident," in that sterile font they use for junk mail. But the return address, the return address was embossed with gold foil. Marcus and Sophia Chen Williams request the honor of your presence. Marcus, my Marcus, the boy I used to carry on my shoulders through grocery stores. The one who wouldn't sleep unless I sang that silly song about the moon being made of cheese. Marcus, who I thought would always need me. I stood there in my bathrobe, mail scattered across the linoleum floor, holding this invitation like it might burst into flames. Because surely this was a mistake. Surely my son didn't send me a wedding invitation addressed to current resident. For a wedding I'd drained my retirement account to pay for. But there it was. Saturday, June 15th. The Rosewood Manor. Reception to follow. Black tie requested. All the details I'd helped choose. All the vendors I'd written checks to. All the dreams I'd funded with money I didn't have. Because I thought love meant saying yes to everything. I laughed. Of course I laughed. You know that sound you make when your brain is trying to protect you from something too big to process? That's the sound I made, standing barefoot in my kitchen, holding proof that I was worth less than postage to my only child. The invitation was thick, substantial, the kind of weight that screams, expensive. I should know. I paid for it. 350 invitations at $12 each, plus the calligraphy, plus the postage, plus the custom stamps with their engagement photo. Their smiling faces looking back at me from every envelope I'd helped address. Every envelope except mine. I set the invitation down carefully, like it was evidence, which I suppose it was. Evidence that the boy I'd raised, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, had become someone who could erase me with the stroke of a pen and sleep soundly afterward. The worst part wasn't the exclusion. The worst part was that somewhere in the back of my mind, I wasn't even surprised. Let me tell you about the woman I used to be. The one who believed that if you just loved hard enough, sacrificed deep enough, gave until it hurt, and then gave some more, it would all come back to you. That woman died on a Tuesday morning holding a wedding invitation addressed to no one. But she'd been dying for years, really. Slow deaths, paper cuts, 1,000 tiny compromises that bled her dry, one drop at a time. It started when Marcus was 7 and his father decided that responsibility felt too heavy on his shoulders. David walked out on a Wednesday, left a note on the kitchen counter next to Marcus's lunchbox that said he needed to find himself. Funny how men always need to find themselves somewhere far away from the children they helped create. I became everything then. Mother, father, provider, protector. I worked at the bank during the day, cleaned offices at night, sold plasma on weekends when the grocery money ran short. Marcus never went without, not once. While I wore the same 3 dresses to work for 2 years, He had new shoes every season. While I ate cereal for dinner, he had balanced meals with vegetables he wouldn't touch. But I kept buying anyway, because hope dies hard in a mother's heart. College came with a price tag that made my stomach hurt. $47,000 a year for Marcus to study business at a private university, because he said the state school wasn't good enough. I need connections, Mom. This is an investment in our future. Our future. I loved that he said our. So I took out loans, worked overtime, sold my mother's wedding ring. The only thing of value I owned. I told myself it was temporary, that once Marcus graduated and got his dream job, we'd both be better off. That's what I told myself when I skipped meals to make loan payments. That's what I whispered when the bank called about late mortgage payments. Investment, future, our. But something changed when Marcus met Sophia during his senior year. She was beautiful, polished, from the kind of family that summered in the Hamptons and wintered in Aspen. The kind of family that made my secondhand furniture and coupon-cutting lifestyle look like poverty tourism when they came to visit. I tried so hard to fit in. Bought new dishes I couldn't afford. Painted the living room. Got my hair done at a real salon instead of the discount place in the strip mall. But Sophia had a way of looking at things. At me. Like she was cataloging every flaw. Not cruel, just assessing. Like she was trying to figure out how much work it would take to renovate me into something acceptable. Marcus started changing too. Subtle things. He stopped calling as often. Stopped sharing details about his life. When he did visit, he'd glance around my little house with new eyes. Eyes that had learned to see through Sophia's lens. I became the embarrassing secret. The mother who tried too hard, gave too much, loved too loudly. But I didn't see it then. Or maybe I did, and chose to ignore it, because the alternative was admitting I'd raised someone who could be ashamed of the woman who'd given him everything. The engagement announcement came through social media. Not a phone call, not a visit. A post with professional photos taken at some vineyard I'd never heard of. She said yes, with a ring that cost more than I made in 6 months. I commented first. "Congratulations, sweetheart. So happy for you both." With enough exclamation points to hide the fact that my heart was breaking. Because I'd learned about my son's engagement the same way as his high school acquaintances. That's when the real manipulation began. The call came 3 weeks after the engagement photos went viral among their circle of friends. Marcus's voice was warm, excited, the way it used to sound when he was little and wanted something special for Christmas. "Mom, we need to talk about the wedding. Can we come over Sunday?" I spent 2 days cleaning my house like the Pope was coming for dinner. Bought actual name brand snacks instead of the store brand. Made Marcus's favorite lasagna from scratch. The one with 3 kinds of cheese that took me 4 hours and cost more than I usually spent on groceries in a week. They arrived in Sophia's BMW, the one her parents bought her for graduation. I watched through the window as she checked her makeup in the rearview mirror, as Marcus smoothed his shirt. A shirt I'd never seen before, that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. Sophia hugged me at the door, one of those careful hugs that doesn't disturb anything. "Thank you so much for dinner, Mrs. Patterson. Everything smells wonderful. Always so polite, so proper." Like she was reading from a script titled, "How to Deal with Your Fiancé's Embarrassing Mother." We sat at my little dining table, the one I'd bought at a garage sale, and refinished myself. Sophia barely touched the lasagna. Said she was watching her figure for the dress. Marcus ate like he always did when he came home. Like he'd been starving. And for a moment, I thought maybe nothing had changed. Maybe I was imagining the distance. Then, Sophia cleared her throat delicately. "We wanted to talk to you about contributing to the wedding." Contributing. Such a careful word. Not asking for help. Not admitting they needed money. Contributing. Like I was a business partner being offered the privilege of investment. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes bright with excitement. "Mom, we found the most amazing venue. The Rosewood Manor. It's where Sophia's cousin got married. It's perfect. It's quite expensive, Sophia added, her voice apologetic, but not sorry. But Marcus told me how much you want this day to be special. How you've always dreamed of seeing him married. I had dreamed of it. Late at night, when the bills were paid and the house was quiet, I'd imagined walking my son down the aisle, dancing with him at his reception, being the proud mother, finally getting to celebrate after all those years of sacrifice. The venue alone is $18,000, Marcus said, like he was sharing good news. But think about it, Mom. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Your only son's wedding. Your only son. He knew exactly which buttons to push. We could help with some of the costs, I heard myself saying. Because when you've spent 25 years saying yes to everything, no becomes a foreign word. Sophia's face lit up, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her all evening. Really? Oh, Mrs. Patterson, that would be so generous. We were hoping you might want to take care of the venue and the catering. As your gift to us, $28,000. My entire retirement account, plus what I'd have to borrow against the house. But they weren't asking for money. They were offering me the honor of giving it. We want you to be involved in every decision, Marcus promised. This is your gift. Your input matters. I should have heard the lie in his voice. Should have noticed how Sophia's smile never reached her eyes. Should have asked why 2 college graduates with good jobs couldn't pay for their own party. Instead, I said yes, because I was still that woman who believed love was supposed to cost everything. The checks started small. $1,000 here for the deposit, $2,000 there for the photographer. He's the only one who really captures Sophia's vision, Marcus explained when I suggested someone half the price. Each request came wrapped in urgency and gratitude, delivered with that smile I'd been falling for since he was 3 years old. I liquidated my retirement account on a Thursday morning. 26 years of contributing to my 401k, gone in a single transaction. The bank teller, a woman about my age with kind eyes, looked at the withdrawal slip twice. Mrs. Patterson, are you sure about this? This is your entire retirement savings. It's for my son's wedding, I said. Like that explained everything. Like that made financial suicide reasonable. She nodded, but her eyes said what her professionalism wouldn't let her mouth form. This is a mistake. I walked out of that bank, feeling hollowed out and proud at the same time. Hollowed out because I'd just flushed my future down the drain. Proud because I was making my son's dreams come true. That's what mothers do, right? We sacrifice our tomorrows for their todays. The venue was just the beginning. The catering expanded from a simple dinner to a 7-course tasting menu, because Sophia's family expects a certain standard. The flowers went from modest centerpieces to elaborate installations, because we can't have empty spaces in the photos. Each decision was presented as a necessity, each escalation as an obvious choice that only someone who didn't understand weddings would question. And I didn't question. I just opened my wallet wider. The dress shopping was where I first felt the chill. Sophia had asked me to come, said she wanted my opinion. I took a personal day off work, bought a new outfit, got my nails done. I thought this was it. The mother-daughter bonding moment I'd never had, but always craved. The boutique was the kind of place where they serve champagne, and the saleswomen call you darling. Sophia tried on 8 dresses, each one more expensive than the last. When she found the one, a $4,000 confection of silk and beadwork, she turned to me expectantly. "What do you think, Mrs. Patterson?" "It's beautiful," I said, because it was. She looked like a princess, like every little girl's dream of what a bride should be. "Good," she smiled, "because this is another gift we were hoping you'd want to give us." Another gift. $4,000 for a dress she'd wear once. I thought about my own wedding dress, bought off the clearance rack at JCPenney for $68. I thought about how beautiful I'd felt in it anyway, because I was marrying a man I loved, who loved me back. But I said yes. Because by then, saying no felt like admitting I didn't love my son enough. And love, I'd been taught, had no budget. The requests kept coming. The band, the flowers, the cake, the photographer's assistant, the videographer, the wedding planner. Sophia decided she absolutely needed halfway through planning. Each check I wrote felt like buying my place at that altar. Each expense was an investment in remaining relevant in my son's life. By spring, I'd mortgaged my house, $47,000 in debt for a party I was beginning to suspect I wasn't truly welcome at. But I was pot committed now, as they say in poker. I'd bet everything on this hand. The exclusion didn't happen all at once. It crept in like water through a foundation crack, slow and steady until the whole structure was compromised. It started with the planning meetings I was no longer invited to. "We don't want to burden you with every little detail, Mom," Marcus said when I asked about the cake tasting I'd heard Sophia mention on a phone call. "You've already done so much." I'd done so much, past tense. Like my contribution was finished, filed away, no longer relevant to the actual event I was funding. The guest list became a mystery. When I asked about my cousin Helen, who'd driven 8 hours to every birthday party Marcus ever had, Sophia sighed delicately. "Space is just so limited. We had to make some difficult choices." But there was space for Sophia's college roommate from freshman year. Space for Marcus's boss, who barely knew his last name. Space for Sophia's ex-boyfriend from high school. They're friends now, and his family has been so supportive of Sophia's career. I should have asked then whose definition of supportive we were using. I should have wondered what kind of support an ex-boyfriend's family provides that a mother's mortgage-draining sacrifice doesn't. But I was still operating under the delusion that love earns you a seat at the table, not just the bill for the meal. The rehearsal dinner planning happened without me entirely. I found out the details from Marcus's cousin Jenny, who called to ask what she should wear. "Wait," she said, when I told her I didn't know the dress code. "You're not organizing it?" "No, Sophia's parents are handling it." "But you paid for." "It's fine," I said, cutting her off before she could finish pointing out the obvious. That the woman who'd funded the entire wedding wasn't important enough to plan the dinner before it. 3 weeks before the wedding, I called Marcus to ask about my dress. I'd been saving for something special. Something that said, "Mother of the Groom," instead of "Woman who shops at Kohl's clearance rack." "What color is Sophia wearing for the reception? I don't want to clash in the photos." A pause, long enough for my stomach to start churning. "Mom, we need to talk." That phrase, the same one he'd used when he was 16 and crashed my car, the same one he'd used when he changed his major and needed another semester of tuition. Never good news, never simple. Sophia's been feeling really stressed about the wedding. Her anxiety has been through the roof. I waited. In my experience, when someone starts a difficult conversation by talking about someone else's feelings, you're about to become the villain in their story. We think it might be better if you took a step back. Let us handle the final details. Step back from the wedding I was paying for, from my son's most important day. "What do you mean, step back?" "Just, maybe don't come to the ceremony. It's going to be really small anyway. Intimate. But you'll always know you made it possible. Always know I made it possible." Like a ghost haunting someone else's happiness, I hung up the phone and sat in my kitchen for 3 hours without moving. Not crying, not screaming, not calling anyone. Just sitting there like my body had forgotten how to function. Like my nervous system had short-circuited trying to process the impossible. My son had uninvited me to the wedding I'd bankrupted myself to pay for. The house felt different after that call. Smaller somehow, like the walls had moved closer together while I wasn't looking. Every surface held evidence of my financial sacrifice. The stack of wedding vendor receipts, the canceled vacation brochures I'd thrown away when I liquidated my savings, the second mortgage papers still sitting on my counter, waiting to be filed. I walked through my house like I was seeing it for the first time. The living room, where I'd entertained Marcus and Sophia, where I'd served them dinner on my mother's good china while they planned their perfect day. The hallway, lined with pictures of Marcus. First steps, first day of school, graduation, all the moments I thought we were building toward this wedding together. $47,000. I kept coming back to that number. $47,000 for the privilege of being erased from my own son's life. The wedding was 6 days away. 6 days of vendors I'd hired, flowers I'd chosen, a cake I'd tasted, a band I'd approved, all of it happening without me. Like I was already dead. I did what any reasonable person would do. I called my sister. Linda, something's happened. She knew immediately from my voice. Linda's always been able to read the spaces between my words, the places where pain lives quietly. What did he do? Not what happened, but what did he do? Because she'd seen this coming. The sister who'd warned me about lending Marcus money for college. The sister who'd bit her tongue when I mortgaged my house for his wedding. The sister who loved me enough to let me make my own mistakes, but not enough to pretend they weren't mistakes. He uninvited me to the wedding I paid for. Silence. Then, very quietly, Jesus Christ, Sarah. Sophia's feeling anxious about the guest list. Sophia can kiss my ass. What are you going to do? What was I going to do? I'd spent so many years defining myself by what Marcus needed that I'd forgotten how to want things for myself. I'd been his mother, his supporter, his financial backer, his problem solver. Without those roles, who was I? I don't know. Do you want me to call him? No. The word came out sharper than I intended. No, Linda. If he wanted me there, I'd be there. I'm not going to beg my way into my son's wedding. But part of me wanted to beg. Part of me wanted to call him back and ask what I'd done wrong. Promise to be smaller, quieter, less embarrassing. Promise to sit in the back, not cry during the ceremony, not request any mother-son moments. Just let me witness the day I'd sacrificed my future to create. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in 25 years of single motherhood. I put myself first. I called the vendors, not to cancel. The deposits were non-refundable, the damage already done, but to inform them that the person who'd paid for their services wouldn't be attending. The florist was confused. The caterer was horrified. The photographer asked 3 times if I was sure I didn't want to at least get pictures from outside the venue. No, I said. I won't be there at all. Saturday morning, I woke up early. Not because I'd slept well, but because my body had forgotten how to rest. In 12 hours, my son would marry a woman who'd successfully erased me from the most important day of his life. The sun was coming up, and somewhere across town, vendors I'd hired were setting up chairs I'd paid for, arranging flowers I'd chosen, preparing food I'd selected, and I was sitting in my kitchen, banned from my own generosity. I told myself I wouldn't look. That was the plan. Stay off Facebook, avoid Instagram. Don't torture yourself with pictures of the celebration you're financing, but forbidden from attending. I was going to spend the day cleaning closets, organizing photos, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind occupied. But willpower has limits, and by 3 o'clock, I was on my laptop, scrolling through wedding hashtags like picking at a scab. Sophia and Marcus forever. Rosewood Manor wedding. Best day ever. The photos started appearing in real time. Sophia getting ready, surrounded by 6 bridesmaids in blush pink dresses that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Marcus looking handsome in his tuxedo, the one I'd paid for, smiling like he didn't have a care in the world, like he hadn't just financially ruined and emotionally destroyed the woman who raised him. The ceremony photos were beautiful. Of course, they were beautiful. I'd hired the best photographer money I didn't have could buy. Marcus waiting at the altar, Sophia walking down the aisle in that $4,000 dress. Their first kiss as husband and wife. The venue looked exactly like the Pinterest boards we'd looked at together, back when I thought we meant something. But it was the caption on one photo that stopped my heart. So grateful to Ryan for walking me down the aisle today. Having my oldest friend by my side made this moment even more special. Cha's chosen family, Cha love wins. Ryan. Sophia's ex-boyfriend Ryan was walking her down the aisle. At my son's wedding, the wedding I'd mortgaged my house to pay for, I stared at that photo until my eyes burned. This man, this stranger, this ex-boyfriend, was being honored in the role I'd dreamed of playing. Not walking her down the aisle, I understood her father had passed away years ago. But being there, being chosen, being included in the family I'd been excluded from. The comments started pouring in. So beautiful. Perfect ceremony. You look radiant. Friends and relatives gushing over every detail, every flower arrangement I'd selected, every design choice I'd made, every element I'd sacrificed my financial security to provide. And then I saw it. A comment from my own cousin Helen, the one who'd been cut from the guest list due to space limitations. Looks amazing. So sad Sarah couldn't make it. Hope she's feeling better. Feeling better. They'd told people I was sick, that I'd chosen not to come because of illness, not because I'd been deliberately, cruelly excluded from the event I'd funded. They'd given themselves cover, made themselves look considerate, made me look weak. I kept scrolling, screenshot after screenshot of my money turned into their memories. The 7-course dinner, the elaborate floral arrangements, the live band playing into the night, guests dancing under lights I'd paid for, eating cake I'd commissioned, celebrating love in a venue I'd secured with my retirement savings. But it was the video that broke me. Marcus's best man speech, posted by someone's cousin who thought it was too cute not to share. I watched my son stand up in his expensive tuxedo, champagne glass in hand, and thank everyone who'd made the day possible. Sophia and I are so grateful to everyone who believed in our love story, to her parents for their guidance, to my groomsmen for their friendship, to everyone who helped make today perfect. Everyone who helped make today perfect. He thanked the groomsmen, he thanked her parents, he thanked the wedding planner, the venue coordinator, even the DJ. He mentioned Sophia's deceased father and how he was watching from heaven, but he never mentioned me. Not once. The woman who'd given everything, literally everything, to make his perfect day possible, was erased from the gratitude as completely as she'd been erased from the guest list. I closed the laptop and walked to my bathroom mirror, looked at the woman staring back at me, 54 years old, financially ruined, emotionally devastated, completely alone. The woman who'd raised a son capable of taking $47,000 and offering nothing in return, except public humiliation. That's when I finally cried, not the gentle tears of sadness, but the ugly, choking sobs of someone who just realized they'd spent 25 years loving a stranger. I cried for 3 days, not continuously, but in waves that would hit without warning, while brushing my teeth, while making coffee, while staring at the mortgage papers that would define the next decade of my financial life. But by Tuesday, something had shifted. The tears stopped coming, replaced by something harder, something clearer. I started making phone calls. First, to a bankruptcy attorney, because pretending I could pay a $47,000 debt on my bank teller salary was just another form of self-destruction, and I was done destroying myself for people who'd already written me off. Mrs. Patterson, the lawyer said gently after reviewing my paperwork, this level of debt for someone in your income bracket? What happened here? I paid for my son's wedding, the wedding I wasn't allowed to attend. She looked up from the papers, her expression shifting from professional sympathy to something raw. I'm sorry. That's financial abuse. Financial abuse. I'd never heard the term applied to family relationships, but it fit like a glove I'd been trying to ignore. The systematic exploitation of my love, the weaponizing of my maternal instincts, the way they'd made my bankruptcy sound like generosity. Second call was to a therapist, Dr. Martinez, recommended by Linda, who specialized in family estrangement. because I needed to understand how I'd raised someone capable of this level of cruelty. "Sarah," she said during our first session, "you didn't fail as a mother. You succeeded too well. You taught him that your love had no boundaries, no conditions, no limits. Some children learn from that generosity. Others learn to exploit it." Third call was the hardest. Marcus had been texting since Monday. Not apologies, just updates about the honeymoon. Photos from Bali, casual messages like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just committed the emotional equivalent of murder. "Mom, tried calling but you didn't answer. Hope you're doing okay. Sophia says thanks for everything." Sophia says thanks for everything. Not even his own gratitude. Borrowed appreciation from the woman who'd orchestrated my exile. I called him Tuesday evening. "Marcus," I said when he answered, his voice bright with post-honeymoon happiness. "We need to talk." "Mom, I was just telling Sophia about that restaurant in Ubud. I'm filing for bankruptcy." Silence. "Because of the wedding expenses. Because I mortgaged my house and emptied my retirement account to pay for a celebration I was banned from attending." "Mom, you're being dramatic." "No," I said, and my voice was steadier than it had been in months. "I'm being honest. For the first time in 25 years, I'm telling you the truth instead of what you want to hear." More silence. Then, "We never asked you to pay for everything." "You're right. You didn't ask. You manipulated. You made me believe that love meant saying yes to financial ruin. That being a good mother meant bankrupting myself for your happiness. That's not—" "Marcus," I said his name, like a period at the end of a sentence. "I'm done. I'm done being your ATM. I'm done being grateful for scraps of attention from my own son. I'm done pretending that what you did was okay, because you're family. You can't mean that." "I do. When you're ready to apologize, really apologize. Not just acknowledge that I'm upset, call me. Until then, I'm rebuilding my life without you in it." I hung up before he could respond, before he could guilt me or gaslight me or make me doubt my own experience again. 6 months later, I'm still rebuilding. The bankruptcy went through. I moved to a smaller apartment, got a second job, started going to therapy twice a week. I'm learning to say no. I'm learning that love without respect is just manipulation wearing a prettier mask. Marcus has called twice, both times to ask for something, a loan for a down payment, help with Sophia's student loans. Both times I said no. Both times he acted shocked, like I was the one being unreasonable. I keep the wedding invitation on my refrigerator now. Not as punishment, but as proof. Proof that I survived my own generosity. Proof that even when the people you love most treat you like garbage, you can still choose to see yourself as valuable. If you're listening to this and someone in your family is bleeding you dry financially, emotionally, spiritually, hear me. Your love is not an unlimited resource. Your sacrifice is not their right. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop enabling their cruelty. You are not a bank account with feelings. You are not a service provider for other people's dreams. You are a whole person deserving of respect, gratitude, and basic human decency, even from your own children, especially from your own children. The wedding I paid for taught me the most expensive lesson of my life. Sometimes the people who take the most from you will give you the least in return. But that says everything about them and nothing about your worth. I'm 55 years old, starting over and finally free. And you know what? That freedom is worth every penny I lost getting here.